Okay, continuing on with Matthew chapter 7, sharing on the book of Matthew. We're still on the Sermon of the Mount. Chapter 7 is the last chapter that covers the Sermon on the Mount. And I will just go through each of the topics that Jesus teaches on here. So the first one is judging others. So Jesus says, "Do not judge, or you too will be judged." So the truth is, we all judge, right? Every one of us, we formulate opinions, we analyze things. And the thing is, even though we do this, Jesus, what he's doing is he's cautioning us not to be so quick as to call people out based on how we perceive them or how we judge them. Because the truth is, the person is also judging you. He's perceiving you in a certain way, and he's formulating his own opinion about you. So we should not assume that we know that person just from what we see or what we hear. Like, for example, I might see someone and I think that, hey, something looks wrong with them, his personality or, his lifestyle. But the thing is, he is also doing the same thing to me. Like, he's judging me. He might see something he doesn't like. And here Jesus, he provides a very wonderful example in verse 3. He says, "Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye?" So Jesus, being a carpenter, he knows very well about sawdust and timbers. So he uses a humorous analogy here to make a point. He said, "Why do you look at the tiny speck in another person's eye when you yourself have a massive piece of timber, a massive log blocking your own vision?" So the main lesson is to work on yourself. That's the main thing. Judge yourself, work on yourself, improve yourself. And once you have dealt with your own problems, your own faults, and you are improving yourself, then you can see clearly to help your brother with his problems. So that's what Jesus says here in verse 4. In verse 5 he said, "You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, take the timber, the log out of your own eye, then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye." Okay, so then that's for judging others. Let's move on to ask, seek, and knock. So this is teaching obviously on asking, seeking, knocking, and it's one of the most popular teachings in the Bible. And Jesus is saying, ask, and it will be given. In verse 7, ask and it will be given to you, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be opened to you. So asking is very vital. It's an important thing that we all do in life, and we might ask other people for help, but the person we should primarily ask for help, we should always ask for everything, is God. We should always approach him, and he's the one we should primarily be asking. Whatever it is that we're asking, we should be asking him. And especially like help, especially like whatever help, finance, physically, emotional help, health wise. Like, we don't really have to, especially when it comes to finance like that, you don't really have to ask another person or ask another human, because we tend to forget that God himself is a living person, right? He is a living provider. He's not some abstract thing, he is a living person, and his existence is real. Definitely way more real than you and I. You and I, we are here only for 100 years and we are gone. God exists from eternity through eternity. The reason he seems non-existent to us is because we are very non-existent, so to speak. 100 years and then existence ceases to be for us. So we, in our frail state, cannot really comprehend somebody whose existence is far beyond us. So yeah, just ask him, and he can definitely provide for you. Also, I just want to speak on knocking. Knocking is such a powerful thing. So, when you're knocking at a door, people in the house definitely know that you are knocking. They may not want to open up, but they definitely know that they can hear the knock, and they are aware that you are knocking. So, just, keep on knocking, and eventually the door will open, because that's the thing here. Jesus says, to the one who knocks, the door will be open, and it will open up to, you might get, sorry, you're not allowed in the house, or, you might get, hey, welcome, you come in. But whatever the answer is, the thing is, the door has opened, and you will get your answers. So yeah, just persistently keep on knocking. Persistence is a powerful thing. And then now the narrow gate, the narrow and wide gates. So it says here, enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. The thing is, this world is plagued by sin because of Adam and Eve. So yeah, because of that, sin is such an easy thing for us to do, easy thing for us to follow the path of sin. It's innate in us to be sinful, because it all comes down to original sin. And because of that, all of us were heading in a certain direction, and that direction is the path of destruction. That's that wide and broad gate. But then when you change, when you want to go against the grain, when you want to take on the narrow gate, it's going to be hard. And like verse 14, it says, small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life. It's meaning small and narrow. That means something that's small and narrow is difficult to get through or difficult to follow in, and only a few find it. But when you are changing, and when you are doing this thing that is getting you through to, that is leading you to life, and you are going against the grain, everybody will be not happy with you. Most people won't be happy. They cannot accept that change that you are doing, and it's going against their own lifestyle. And so there'll just be difficulties that you will be experiencing from everybody who's down following the wide and broad gate. But as long as you are set on your path and you keep on going, you will find life and you will be blessed. Okay, so that's for the narrow and wide gates. And then now we have the true and false prophets. So verse 15 says, watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves. So this is very true today, especially with social media. And there are many false teachers out there. They claim to be speaking on God's behalf, but really there's a hidden agenda, some form of deceit lurking behind what they're saying. So you gotta scrutinize everybody you come across on social media or even in real life. You gotta be wary of them. Even myself, as I'm speaking and you're listening, you have to be wary. Sorry, how do you say wary? Wary of everybody, even myself included. Cautious, So myself, like when I see somebody's TikTok, I'm scrolling and I see somebody's TikTok, and if they're saying something that stands out to me, usually I go and check all their other videos just to check if they are consistent with what they're saying on the TikTok that I saw, and they are really living up to that thing that they're saying, because there was this lady who I heard, and she was drawing a lot of people with her teachings, but there was something subtle in her message that was really not it didn't sit right with me. So I went to check up on her other videos on TikTok, and there was definitely something shady about her. And of course, she was also accused of committing adultery, and even though she tried to deny it, but she didn't really deny it in a way that was that really seemed proper, So just it says in verse 18, a good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. So thus by the fruit, in verse 20, thus by the fruit you will recognize them. So the fruit will expose everybody. So check for everybody's fruits. And then we also have true and false disciples. So verse 21 says, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. So many Christians know Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, or many Christians show respect and reverence, but the real difference is, do you know the will of the Father? So verse 22 says, many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform many miracles? And verse 23 says, then I will tell them plainly, I never knew you. Away from you, evildoers. So performing miracles in his name, prophesying in his name, driving out demons in his name, these are powerful things. And people who have the gift, they are capable of doing it, even though they are not really doing the will of God. But to do the will of God is very specific and very distinct. So Jesus speaks on this particular difference in Luke chapter 4 verses 16 to 30 when he's preaching to the people, and he tells them about Elijah and the widow. So in the story of Elijah, there was a famine for 3.5 years, and in Israel there were many widows. Now you'd think, like, to help a widow out would be doing good work, you're doing good work for God. But yet God, he did not send Elijah to any of those widows in Israel. Instead, he sent Elijah to a foreigner, a widow in Zarephath in the region of Sidon, and that was the only widow whom God sent Elisha to help out. And then Jesus also told about Elisha and Naaman. There were many lepers in Israel during Elisha's time, but only one leper was healed, as recorded in the book of Kings, and that was Naaman the Syrian. Naaman the Syrian. He was a foreigner, he was a Gentile. So the thing is, yes, Jesus had a heart full of compassion, and we too can have a heart full of compassion for people. But the ministry, Jesus' ministry, was not driven by the work. It was not work driven by the need to do work or good works, There's a definite need out there, and the volume of people, the mass number of people that are in need of help are there. But everything comes back to the will of God, and that's what Jesus did, and that's what we are also to do. So driven by the will of God is the ultimate thing in the end, and God, he is orchestrating in his infinite wisdom and knowledge everything according to his plan, and we must adhere to what he is doing, his will. And then the last one is the wise and foolish builders. So the wise and foolish builders, this is basic Sunday school story. We all ought to know this. So two men built houses. One built his house on sand, and the other built his house on the rock. The one who built on the rock withstood the test. That was, when the storm came. Because his house was built on solid foundation, his house stood and did not fall. But the one who built his house on the sand, his house crumbled, because he didn't build on a proper foundation. So for all of us who are 20 years and older, all of us, we have definitely experienced this truth, this principle of building on proper foundations. For for myself, I can use this example like in the education schooling system. Like if we are not diligent or haven't done things properly, then the results will show. And for myself, I will admit to this. I cheated in my exam once. It was the Form 3 exam, very important exam here in the Solomon Islands, and it did affect my education later down the line. I was one of those guys who, I was stupid at that time, just drinking with friends, and decided to like, all right, let's buy the maths exam paper that, they were selling, and we all we bought it. It's not funny. It cost me. I'm just laughing because thankfully I can look back now and I've been dealt with. I was exposed. I wasn't caught. I did went to Form 4, but eventually, just things just piled on and things just went from worse and my education suffered. I got expelled. Then I couldn't finish my schooling for the Form 6 and so on. I've repeated. So yeah, your sins will find you out, and that's what happened. So yeah, don't build your house on the sand. Build it on the rock. Build it on a proper foundation. So yeah, that's for Matthew chapter 7.